Hey Algebra All-Stars, today we're going to be taking a look at 6.1, dealing with graphing systems and seeing how those are graphed on an XY plane. For this video's agenda, we'll see a quick warm-up, something you need to know to be successful with what we're going to be looking at in this section. We'll also see a real-world example, real enough for us to get a visual on what we're doing here. And we'll also conclude with some examples. Real quick, starting with the warm-up that we'll knock out first. Give this one a shot, pause the video, try to graph this out. If you were being asked to graph y equals 1/2 x minus 3, and also find 4 xy points, pause the video, give this one a shot. We'll use these skills as we move through this section, so see if you know what you're doing here. So pause the video, give this one a shot. So when graphing this out, the first thing you should have noticed was that at the way end here, this -3 is going to represent our y-intercept. So that means that we can graph out the point 0, -3, and this is our y-intercept, which is pretty easy to spot. We've seen this section before, so it should ring a bell. And then what did we do from there? What do you think? Hopefully you took apart your slope, denoted as m, which we also call rise over run. So our slope's 1/2. So this is saying that if we're at this point here, our y-intercept of -3, if we were to rise 1 unit, and how many units do you think we'll have to run? Hopefully you're just saying 2, nothing crazy here. This allows us to get other points without having to plug in numbers to the equation itself. So this next point that we just got is 2, -2. And we can keep this formation going. If we just go up 1 unit and then over 2, we get this other point here, 4, -1. And we can keep this formation going up 1, over 2, graphing this point here, 6, 0. Are these the only 4 points that we could come across here? No, you could have also backtracked 2 units, gone down 1 unit, and gotten this other point of -2, -4. Could have kept this momentum going, and gotten -4, -5. These points are just extra. But notice that this creates the straight linear line for y equals 1/2 x minus 3. And so this is going to be important as we move through 6.1, knowing how to graph lines, see what the slope is, see what the y-intercept is. Cool. Hopefully you got that one right. Let's go to the real-world example. Real enough. And I say real enough because I'm not going to lie, I've been playing a lot of video games lately. One game I've been playing in particular is Super Smash Brothers. And so the one example I'm going to start with is seen here. So in this scenario, if you played the game before, you probably know what's going on. But in this scenario, the goal is to try and knock out the other person that you're playing against. So in this situation here, playing as this character can shoot arrows across the way. Do you think that the arrow from this character is going to hit this character here? What do you think? It should. Yeah, it should for sure. Okay, so that one's pretty easy to spot. What do you think for this one? If you notice that we have this arrow flying across the way here, do you think it's going to hit this character over here? If the line's going in this direction, what do you think? Hopefully you're saying yes. It looks as if the line's going to hit. And so it's kind of odd how I'm kind of starting with this example, but as we move through this section, we're really going to be looking for lines that are graphed out and how they're going to be hitting and intersecting other lines. Because, in blue, this arrow is going to take this trajectory, and it might hit this character over here that's kind of falling down this way. And so really what's going on with this whole section is that we're graphing out two lines and trying to see where they intersect. Think of this like a video game. If you were trying to knock someone off of the screen and you have this ability to shoot a projectile in this direction, chances are it's going to hit that person. And that's really what's going on here with this whole section, is that we're trying to graph out two lines. And when we graph two lines, we call that a system. And so the steps for graphing a system, which again is just two lines that are going to be kind of joined together. First step, and you may want to pause the video, copy this down, and then hear me out. You're going to be graphing both of these equations. If you have an equation in slope-intercept form, recall you use your y-intercept and then rise and run to get points there. Or if you have standard form, which we saw recently in 5.5, I would suggest that you graph both intercepts and then map out that line. And so once we've graphed both equations in the system, we look for a point of intersection, similar to how we were trying to see if this trajectory line in green is going to intersect with this other line cutting down this way. So we're trying to see if these intersect. So we graph out these lines just like so. So for this system, we have y equals negative x plus 3. I know that I'm going to have a y-intercept of 3. Sorry, let me color coordinate this a little bit. So my y-intercept here is 3. And I know my slope is negative 1. And I can write that as a fraction, just over 1. So I know that to get other points here, I would have to go over 1 and then down 1 and make this negative slope, like so. And then for this green line, x plus 1, so notice I'm graphing both of these equations. I know that my y-intercept is 1, and I'll make a note of that. I'll rewrite this as a fraction, just 1 over 1, so I can go over 1, or up 1, then over 1 to get more points here, here, here. Draw a nice straight line between those. And so what do you think? Do you think that these two lines are going to intersect? So recall that I graphed both. That part's done. And so now I'm looking, think of this as a set of eyes, I'm looking, where do these intersect? What do you think? Hopefully you're saying right here is where they intersect. And so when we say we're solving the system by graphing, we're graphing out these equations and we're trying to see where they intersect. So in this case, this point here, the x-coordinate's 1, and the y-coordinate's 2. So we would say that 1, 2 is our solution. And then we're done. That's really it. So really you're just graphing out two lines and seeing where they match up or intersect. They might not. That's an odd occurrence if they don't intersect. We may see one example later down the road like that. Let's try the next one. If you're feeling really confident, I would try this one out on your own. If you need a little bit of assistance, just wait for me to continue. But if you're feeling confident, try this one out on your own. Hopefully that went well if you gave it a shot on your own. With the first equation, I'm going to denote in blue, y equals negative x minus 2. I know that my y-intercept is negative 2, and my slope is negative 1. So those are pretty easy to map out. Y-intercept of negative 2, go over 1, down 1 to get this next point. Keep that momentum going. I try to go in both directions as much as I can, just to show that this line does have a lot of weight to it, going in both directions. Try to make the line as straight as possible. And then for the other line, y equals negative 2/3 x minus 3, y-intercept of negative 3, slope of negative 2/3. Don't let that throw you off just because it's a fraction. So we can map out negative 3. And in this case, we can use our run of 3. So hop over 1, 2, 3 units. And then our rise, I'll go down 2 units. Cool. All right. Well, that's one point we can map out. You can probably see that there is a solution here, but I'll just map out some other points just for clarity. And I'll map out this line. So what do you think? Is there a solution or not? Hopefully you're saying yes. It looks as if this blue line should intersect with this right here, which is the point 3, negative 5. So 3, negative 5 is our solution. And that's it. We're done. So recall, all you have to do is graph out these lines, see where they intersect. If they do, make a note of the point. I hope that this video was helpful. If you're still stuck on anything, let me know if I can help. Thanks for watching.